Week 3 of the UFL is officially in the books, and I'm changing up a little bit here on the channel. Meaning we have the data available for week 2 TV ratings, officially all 4 games, and then all 4 games attendance from week 3. I'm going to do that on Monday, and then the good, the bad, and the ugly on Tuesday. And then we'll see where we kind of go from there with a game on Thursday this week. But I did want to make a quick housekeeping announcement that I have officially disabled memberships. If you paid for a membership, you'll be refunded by YouTube or Google for what you had paid for the current month or whatnot. The thing is, I have had a lot of people become members lately, and they think that it is okay to, in the comment section, they have randomly found me on like social media that I barely am even on, and are like telling me that I need to post at certain hours when my videos should go up, and if I don't post something, they're complaining about it. And saying, oh, well, I pay for a membership, so you should be doing what I tell you. That's not how that's going to work. And quite frankly, as time has gone on, I just feel weird taking money for a service that I want to provide for free. I make money off the channel with ad revenue from YouTube, and I think that is going to be the way I make it. If you want to do like a super thanks or whatever the case may be of a tip on the channel, that's perfectly fine. But memberships, I have officially disbanded. I appreciate everyone that supported me on that level, but the other thing is too, YouTube has kind of changed up how they're like taking like their cut for memberships, so it's really not even worth being a member at that point. So I don't want you guys to waste your money per month when I want to just give this content for free, not behind any ad like walls or paywalls or anything like that. The only thing obviously is ads on the channel or whatnot. So anyways, moving along, let's talk about the TV ratings and attendance numbers. So we'll first start off with week 2 TV ratings now that we have all 4 games. And I will tell you, this looks absolutely horrendous. You can literally see 2024, 2025, 2026 in week 2, the drop of nearly 1 million per week or per like year. It's a little bit more over, little over technically a million for week 2 of TV ratings for 2026. It does not help, of course, that NFL Network was introduced into this. I still think they would have got the same numbers on ESPN2 around that, but NFL Network did not help. And then, of course, you had your Tuesday night game on FS1. FS1 on Sundays on primetime do well. I mean, you could see last year 520,000 people compared to 160 this year on a Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, which is a school night anyways for a lot of people. So that number's low. And I mean, the total week 1 viewership was 1,160,000, so 1.10 in ratings. That is a decrease of 1,304,000 from 2025 to 2026. Again, it is, you can see the dips year after year. So 1.30 dip from last year this year. I've got to say, I am a little concerned with this overall. Obviously, Friday night, we'll see what week 3 does for Fox Friday nights. It's pretty consistent across the board for Fox Friday nights with the numbers. And we talked about that a little bit yesterday. But again, I agree with a lot of people here on this channel that the UFL, they need to either get more over-the-air broadcast partners like NBC or CBS, or they need to have a sit-down conversation with one of their co-owners, ESPN, to get more games on ABC. I am very curious to see what yesterday's back-to-back games on ABC does in TV ratings wise, and I think that will prove my point and a lot of people's point that they need to get these games off NFL Network, FS1, or ESPN2, and maybe have 1 or 2 games on ESPN altogether for the entire year. The rest need to be on Fox or ABC, and then of course potentially another network that's over the air like NBC or CBS for next year, because it is not working very well so far. And we still have another, believe it or not, we have another NFL Network game coming up. So that's another problem too, that it's probably not going to get the greatest ratings ever. And I do think there is a little bit of concern here that we are seeing a massive drop off in viewership when it comes to TV ratings and everything. Outside of like Friday nights, they're staying consistent, but until we get more over-the-air games on ABC and Fox during the weekends, I think we're going to continue to see a drop in those numbers. And the thing is, I have no earthly idea if ESPN Unlimited or Fox One or any of those streaming services are included in these numbers. A lot of people have switched to those type of providers. YouTube TV, Sling TV, I do believe those streaming services are included with these numbers for Nielsen TV ratings, but I don't think a lot of the other stuff is. So I'm curious to know how many people are actually watching these games when it comes to the apps and everything like that. So moving along here, let me pull up on the screen the attendance. We'll take a first look at the overall attendance going back to 2023 like we have. Week 3 of the UFL had 48,591 in attendance. And no, that is not a typo. Yes, there was a St. Louis Battlehawks game this weekend. We'll talk about that in a second. So far, though, the total attendance for the UFL through 3 weeks is 150,751. Average attendance is 12,562. So literally 400 more people average per game in the first 3 weeks than what we had last year, which is crazy to think. Obviously, that number is divided by 40 games compared to 12 games right now, but you get my point. If you look at the numbers, the XFL had 13,485 average attendance, and then it's dipped down from there until this year. It has climbed back up to a little bit more of a better number for average, and that's in the criteria that Mike Rapoli has talked about, 10 to 15,000. They want average per game. Obviously, we are seeing a completely different thing in Dallas and even in St. Louis with the crowd, but we'll talk about that. So again, is there concern here? I would start kind of paying attention to these numbers because there could be. I will put it this way when we pull up these. So first and foremost, we did talk about week 2 TV ratings and everything there. So you have the NFL Network, the 0.72. You had the 0.16 on FS1. Overall viewership was 1,278,000 for, should be saying week 2 on the bottom there. That's my mistake there. But again, this is where I kind of feel we see some concerns with week 2, with those numbers just being very, very low. Even that ESPN number on that Saturday on prime time, 293,000, is kind of low for an ESPN primetime slot. Again, it did go head-to-head with the Final Four, so that's something to kind of look in there. But I'm curious to see where these numbers go as we start losing some of those competitions that the league is seeing. But moving into week 3 attendance and breaking that down. So Friday night, Lynn Family Stadium, the Kings' second home game, 11,082. That number did drop from the previous time, and this was a game that I am curious if the internet was just talking shit about the end of the game. We'll talk about that a little bit more on the good, the bad, and the ugly tomorrow. But a lot of people that are Kings fans were saying they are not returning to see another Kings game after the ending of Friday night's game. Whether that's actually the case, people love to do a lot of talking on the internet and are not really being honest, or they've never attended a game in their life and they're just joining in a conversation. I'm curious to see what happens with attendance in Louisville after that controversial ending. Well, I guess it's controversial if you want to call it that. I don't think it's controversial because it's a rule, but it is what it is. Then we move on to the Gamblers and Defenders game at Audi Field, 12,167. I will tell you right off the bat with Audi Field, That is actually a pretty average number that they were getting, I believe, last year for Audi Field, was around that 12,000 mark. When I look at the data here, I don't have it up on the screen, obviously, but I do have the data. They were averaging roughly about 13,026 per game. So to see 12,167, a little bit of a dip there. They averaged 14,143 in 2024. But again, for a team that literally won the championship game last year and is a championship caliber team, it is shocking to see a little bit of a dip there. It was very loud. That game was loud. The beer snake section was going crazy. That was an exciting game. Then we move over to the Aviators and Renegades game on Sunday, 5,133. This was a 1 p.m. or technically 11 a.m. Start time, Central Time. So again, Sunday, early church, all that type of stuff, whatever. I'm not making excuses up for the Renegades here because this is 2 consecutive weeks for 5,000 some odd number. These are the lowest attended games for the Renegades ever. But I will say, and I think James Baker, who is a huge Renegades fan, and I think he does work or podcast now for Pro Football Newsroom or whatnot, but I will say he made a good point. The capacity right now of Toyota Stadium is just at about 11,000 because of construction. And they're still pulling over half, at least almost half of what that stadium capacity is right now. It's not bad, but it's half the number of what the UFL is wanting. Something has to be done in Dallas, Fort Worth area, Frisco, whatever you want to call that whole area, because I find it weird they moved to a soccer stadium and they're getting way lower attendance than they ever had at Choctaw Stadium. And I am curious if casual fans didn't even realize the team moved. They rebranded to Dallas again. There's a lot of factors that can kind of go into this that drop the attendance, but I know quite a bit of people that when they moved from Choctaw to Toyota had said they were not returning to Renegades games, period. They were not driving the extra. It's not that far, but for people that traveled all across Texas to go to the Renegades game, I can see where just even extra mileage, especially with how high gas prices are right now, I think that's going to be another thing that is going to affect the league long term is gas prices, travel prices, and things like that. That's why I'm not going to any games this year is the cost of travel. It's outrageous. It is like 20 times the amount I was paying to go to games prior to the pandemic with the XFL in 2020, the XFL in 2023, and UFL in 2024. Prices are nearly double, if not triple, to even get to these markets to go to games. So again, we're going to probably see a continuation of attendance drop. We still don't even know where the Dallas Renegades are playing in Week 8. I believe it is Week 8 on Friday night against the Orlando Storm. We still don't know where that game is. They have not said a word. How? Why? I would lead me to believe they'll go back to Choctaw, but I don't know at this point. It's just a weird situation, and with these attendance numbers, kind of makes you question a lot. Then we move on to the Stallions and Battlehawks, 20,209. This is the lowest attended Battlehawks game ever. And to put into perspective, this is not even a sellout if they had re-put the team into Energizer Stadium. This still is not even a sellout there. I think their capacity is around 25K. This is very questionable numbers. Now, of course, yes, there was a St. Louis Cardinals game that I've seen crowd pictures where it was not that much. MLB's official attendance for that game was 25,000 that was going head-to-head with the Battlehawks game. So technically, tickets distributed / people that attended the game, whatever the case may be, between both games during that time was over 45,000 people attending both games at once. I don't know what you want to say there. I am shocked to see this number, to be honest, even when they have gone head to head with, let's say, for instance, the Blues or the Cardinals during the regular season. This isn't even compared to the numbers that we normally see from the Battlehawks. And that's where the surprising factor comes into play here, because when you look back, at least in the last 2 years of the UFL, the lowest attended game for the Battlehawks was week 6 of last year of 26,684. The rest are either 27 or in the 30s into 40s from 2024 to current. Again, even when they are playing against two teams, or there's the Blues and Cardinals are playing at some time almost directly related to the Battlehawks game, they're still getting more numbers. I don't know what's going on there. Marketing, I think, is still a farce thing throughout the entire league. I agree with a lot of people that continue to say that they need to be living in the cities they live in, or they play in, and that could boost up things from day one of January 1st to when the season starts. But again, total week 3, and I keep forgetting to change the number there. It's total week 3 attendance, 48,591. So I will say it is a thing to kind of keep an eye on as time goes on. I am expecting long term, we could potentially see this being either about average of last year, if not worse, if the trend continues in the route we are going with TV ratings and attendance in general. And we have seen some strong markets with the Kings. Columbus was decent, but I'm curious to see what happens with them. I hate this aspect that, oh, well, if the team's doing bad, they're going to have bad attendance. Well, guess what? The Renegades are 3-0, and they are the hands down one of the best teams in the league, and they are not pulling numbers in at all. Same with Orlando. So I think that argument of like, well, if they do bad, they're going to get bad attendance, I think it can work both ways depending on that market. And I think it is something that Mike Rapoli needs to look at in that long-term picture of how to really get involved here without relocating teams. Again, the more you relocate teams, the less likely people are going to spend their money and travel in to see games or watch on television because of the fact that they can't even keep up with the league. They are feared that the team that they're buying season tickets to is not going to be there next year. They're buying merchandise for a team that may not be there next year. That is tiring as a fan, and I think that is something that has directly impacted the overall presence and presentation of the UFL. Is how many teams were relocated. There's rebranding of 2 teams, which is the Houston Gamblers and the Dallas Renegades going from Arlington. That is a lot of differences in one calendar year that could have a very negative effect on the league. And I think that's something that will need to be studied at one day to see if that is the root cause of a lot of this drop in attendance and TV ratings, is just the inconsistency of the league overall when it comes to relocation and stuff like that. That's why I have been a true proponent on this channel of just give it 5 years. 5 years per market starting this year. If the numbers are not there in 5 years, I do think at that point you start having those conversations in those cities with leadership in the city, the team, the players, the fans, and the politicians, whatever the case may be, that they need to have that conversation to see if that team is still warranted to be in that location. But again, marketing is a huge thing, and I truly think as much as we thought it was working, I don't think it actually was working properly. So again, we'll see how that goes, but thank you again for joining me here today, and we'll see you tomorrow for the good, the bad, and the ugly of week 3. There's a lot to cover tomorrow because there was a lot that happened in week 3. I think we've seen more in week 3 than we've pretty much seen in any spring football league, and just the amount of situations that happened over a 4-day period basically. So we'll see you back here on the flip side. Have a great one, everyone.